weak one shiver. Eric Hecker spitting truth, satellites on blast. Eyes to the sky, future, present, and past. Bill Binney in the lab, code sharp like a sword. NSA shook, couldn't silence the Lord. Drenched in shadows, armor of fire. Karen Stewart stand tall, never retire. Catherine Horton, mind sharp as a dagger. Slice through the lies, watch the puppets stagger. John Hall with the scope, got the angle precise. Chipping through the matrix, breaking all the ice. Malone holding truth like a scalpel in hand. Medical deceit, he ain't letting it stand. Sending demons, taking down the towers. Alphabet soup, crumble, fear the power. From the depths they rise, truth they deliver. Whistle blowing fire, make the weak one shiver. Sending demons, taking down the towers. Alphabet soup, crumble, fear the power. From the depths they rise, truth they deliver. Whistle blowing fire, make the weak one shiver.
Good morning, everybody. -2 degrees in Anchorage, Alaska today. Nice spring day. I did notice that if anybody's watching along on the X platform or YouTube, apparently the title did not go through appropriately. So this is Cawffee Talk, 13 March 26. This is it is not 06 March 26, like some of the titles are showing today, so a little technical difficulty. Good morning, Mr. Magnetized Plasma. It's been a bit since I've hosted a space. Lots going on. Got some new gear in the studio that I've been messing around with getting dialed in, so hopefully this is sounding good on everybody else's end. Good morning, Mr. JK Philly. Hey, throw me a thumbs up, Mr. Magnetized Plasma, if this is sounded fine on your end. Maybe it isn't. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, we got the thumbs up. Okay. Yeah, first time running the studio with this audio setup, so I technically have no idea what's going on audio-wise. But it appears that things are playing. Yeah, super curious why my titles got goofy on the other channels. But that happens. Sip the coffee and smile. That's all we can do sometimes. If it wasn't for bad days, what would a good day be worth? It's a beautiful Friday. Things have been getting weird. Dr. Greer kind of went on a tirade in a recent video with some folks, and he hammered down on calling some people out of the shadows for being the nefarious bad actors that they are. I threw a clip up in the nest of him basically pointing the finger at Elizondo for being a counter-intel operative. I couldn't argue that. I'm finding there's way more folks that are up to no good than there are folks publicly trying to accomplish good. So that's my stand on stuff at this point. There's too much investment behind these people for them to be operating without a short leash, I guess would be one way of putting it. Too much, I can't say this right now, or trust me, bro, I've seen things. I think one of the worst offenders as of late is Eric Burleson, who's somebody I've completely engaged in. And his modus operandi seems to be, show me your proof. Show me your proof. Oh, you know something? Show me your proof. Where's your evidence? He seems like he's just trying to gather what other people know. Because then he likes to discount people for theoretically having no evidence, as he seems to be getting on every podium, every microphone, standing under every single spotlight that he can get in front of and say, I've seen things. I've been shown this. And he's providing zero evidence. He is like the ultimate trust me bro guy right now. Eric Burleson is a maniac running around and providing zero evidence, but doing well, functionally, as an outstanding gatekeeper. He's provided nothing, to the best of my knowledge, to the community other than, trust me, I'm working on it. Trust me, I've seen stuff. You have no idea. Isn't it his job to disseminate the truth as a public servant? Isn't he supposed to serve us, not those that he's covering up for, collaborating, conspiring? That's basically what I see going on in the community. It's just a whole bunch of shenanigans. I like the way that John Warner IV put it. He said it's a 1,000 ring circus. And then, I think of Elizondo as somebody who's just, the ringmaster, Oh, they realize what's going on in this ring is bullshit. Quick. Kill the lights on that one. Stop investing in that ring. That show's over. Light up the ring over here. Everybody pay attention over here now. This is this over here. This ring. This is the greatest show on earth. And I'll be honest, to me, it's very sad that the community seems to enjoy this activity. They're mesmerized every time the new ring lights up. What's going on over there? I think he's right. I think that other spot was old news. We didn't get the truth there, right? So therefore it's not important. The new ring, the illuminated ring, must have the truth. Because the ringmaster wouldn't deceive us. We're here for the show. So continues the Pied Pipering of the masses. Department of War came out recently, said they have directed energy weapons, and they're scaling them up. It's been a couple of weeks, I guess, maybe a few, maybe a month. Have any reporters attempted to engage the Department of War and ask any questions about this new topic of directed energy weapons? Has anybody said, hey, Department of War, you admitted to having weapons that previously you said, were impossible, didn't exist. We didn't possess them, and our enemies didn't possess them. But now if you have them, A, how long have you had them? B, what's the entirety of said arsenal of directed energy weapons. How many variants are there? If we have them, wouldn't it make sense that our enemies do have them also? To what extent have you been deceiving us, O mighty Department of War? And as we all sit here wondering these things, 90 degrees south on this planet at the South Pole Station, the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory Detector Array, whatever you want to title it, directed energy weapons platform operating under false pretenses, is actively getting scaled up. Go figure. Season 1 of the upgrade has begun. The Ice Cube Neutrino Detector will be increased to 10 times its previous size, engulfing what was previously one of the premier science projects as presented, which would be the South Pole Telescope. They will be shutting down the South Pole Telescope because of the scaling up of the Ice Cube Neutrino Detector Array. So its real estate is going to be engulfed, and one project will take priority over the other. It's interesting that the platform that does not seem to have nefarious secondary or tertiary capabilities is the one that's getting shut down. So scaling up is underway, folks. Good morning there, Mr. Sticko. I'm picturing you in your morning singing gear. Yep. So, South Pole Station getting bigger. Oh, I don't know. That's another one I don't know how many people are paying attention to. But in the upgrade going on this year, I see I got a request coming in. Let me attend to that. Mr. Sticko, you're approved.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning. That's some very interesting news.
Right.
I've seen, a lot of, talk about South Pole, and but nothing. That's the first I heard of this.
Yeah, it's actively being scaled up, like in the throes of everything going on. Like, talk about, supportive, corroborating evidence for what I've suggested. Here's another cool one, Gene. I was just about to say before you jumped in. So besides the fact that they're scaling this system up, which is super questionable, in the upgrade that started this year, Gene, they made a big announcement. I follow the program and the news outlets associated to it. So, proffered to the community as news for the upgrade, they mentioned that in addition to the DOMs that they embed into the ice gene, this year they embedded really sensitive earthquake detectors that can detect earthquakes anywhere on the planet that are a 5.0 magnitude or higher in real time.
So I couldn't help but notice a bit of skepticism around the world detect.
Well, detect. I wasn't being skeptical on that at all. Actually, I actually believe that these new earthquake detectors do exactly what they say. But now the question that begs to be asked, Gene, if your scientific project that as presented to the public has nothing to do with earthquakes, if it's exclusively a neutrino detector, which has nothing to do with earthquakes, right? The neutrino passes through the ice, hits the nucleus of an ice molecule. The nucleus and the neutrino are destroyed. A muon is ejected, and a blue flash of Cherenkov radiation comes out. And that's what we're told is how the system works and what it's designed to do. No earthquake detectors required. But the weird thing is, Gene, is if they're lying about something, Gene, if this device is potentially a weapon that can generate earthquakes anywhere in the world, if it did that, Gene, right? If you had a weapon that could fire or generate an earthquake anywhere in the world, wouldn't you want some feedback on the accuracy of your weapon after you pulled the trigger to know if you hit the mark or not?
That would make sense. And the framing and the timing, if we pull the yoke back to 100,000 feet, what's your read on the chain of events, let's say, from the Venezuela operation and the transparency about these weapon systems to the operation in Iran to what seems to be a need to upgrade what's going on at the South Pole? Do you see those as interconnected in
Absolutely.
some way?
Yes. I see, Gene. I see what was obviously a Cold War of directed energy weapons has been going on. Cold just meaning insofar as the public not being aware. The activities were going on. They were super secreted. They were super compartmentalized so that those not involved in the throes of that war were unaware of the action going on. I believe that action is going to now amp up to a level that will make it more of a hot war where folks that pay attention and do research will start to be able to connect the dots and realize that certain activities are less likely happenstance or natural and more than likely the result of intention through technology. Now, there's still a massive amount of plausible deniability when you wield these systems, which is obviously problematic for we the people of the planet, but super beneficial for the folks that are looking to amp us up into this hot war, because a lot more shit's going to go down and there's just going to be bickering about, it's like that Spider-Man meme, everybody pointing at each other. We have conventional warfare going on where these new non-conventional systems can be utilized to provide plausible deniability to potentially drag folks in. It would be, like what people talk about with the USS Liberty, that the Liberty was attacked. So we were attacked by our allies, and the pretense was to sink the Liberty and draw the U.S. into the 6 days war as an ally to Israel to go against Egypt. So my concern is that contemporarily these more modern systems can pull shenanigans like that. There's, plausible deniability if I use this tech but point the finger at someone else. And then people can run with that. And, all the world is a stage, Gene. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept and have observed it.
Right. Well, not only that, I mean, it sets up a scenario that I don't think we're unfamiliar with of dual use, right? Where we're formulating public-facing programs in one
Mm-hmm.
day, but in one way, but then fundamentally they do have a dual-use path that
Totally.
could be exploited. I think we've
Absolutely.
seen that before in many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole, it goes hand in hand with plausible deniability and compartmentalization. I mean, it's like the holy trinity of deception.
Yet it continues to function and work.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's compartmentalization is so powerful. And I get that people may lack an appreciation for how powerful it is, but then they haven't been in proximity to it. You know, they've never worked in a building where there's hundreds of rooms and everybody's an expert at the room that they're in, and nobody has a clue what's going on in the other 99 rooms. This happens all the time.
Yeah, and I think, that's exactly what I've seen in my work too, right? That there's all of these programs, all of this research and development, and what you don't see is any integration.
Right.
And I think it's those integration layers, are what sit in these SAPs and Black World programs and all the rest.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gene, but it seems to me like in many ways what you did previously was like a way to make sure that the compartmentalization was functioning for the folks that you worked with. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Oh, 100%. I mean, even in the oil companies themselves, right? They have, Shell referred to them as coded projects. And these were the things that were coming down the pipeline. But in the same way, everything that fed into it came from everything else that was being done publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And when you had knowledge of the code of the coded project, then you were able to bring information to it that might have just come out of somewhere else.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I would imagine at certain levels in the corporations that you were affiliated with, that there were legitimate, NDAs being signed, proprietary information from the corporation that, if people were full, let's say you worked for Shell and I worked for Conoco, and I was like, Gene, let me know what's going on over there. I'll hook you up. I got $1 million. Let's meet for coffee. Like, you would have to work to defeat things like that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just corporate espionage, right? We went through it all the time. I remember one project, one of these coded projects in particular, somebody who had the task to sort of go through trash found that they had just, taken PowerPoint slides about the project and thrown them into the regular trash.
Mm-hmm.
We gathered all those up, went to the head of the project, and we're like, somebody in your project did this. We used to see it flying on the aircraft. We've talked about airports a number of times. But, you'd be sitting there on the, Houston to Amsterdam flight, and it would have any number of representatives of any number of oil companies all sitting up in business class with their laptops open. And you could get a peek at a lot of their slides and what they were doing and what they were working on, who they were traveling with, what subcontractors, all the rest of it. So that is very much a part of the normal course of business.
Have you ever, I guess, say, caught someone in like full blown like pay to play espionage from one of the companies where they were, taking money to pass secrets?
In Eastern Europe, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that was, and it wasn't just that they were passing it to another company; they were passing it to the Russians, to Russian intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, so that was going from like going from corporate world into the government aspect.
Yeah, because essentially they were, because the Russian entities, Lukoil and Gazprom, they're essentially state-owned enterprises.
Okay.
So the individual was taking, data that had to do with pricing and negotiation kind of stuff, and feeding that through the Russian embassy back to the competition, or the party in which we were engaged in negotiations. And then the other thing we'd find too is like the cell phones and things like that, that they would you'd all be in the room, and then one side would say, all right, we're going to leave and go get a cup of coffee, and you all talk, and somebody leaves the cell phone on in the room with a voice recorder going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or they have some other kind of open line. I mean, that's sort of simplistic things, but
Mm-hmm.
things they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I always I've done a lot of I guess you would just say documentary work that never went public. So I've had a fistful of folks since I've gone public tap me like, we want to make a documentary about you. And I'm like, all right. And then I work with them and, do all the production. They fly me out, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But then one of the things that I've always made me laugh that I've noticed is they love, miking me up for the whole day so that I'm hot mic'd all fucking day.
Yeah, right.
It's like that's an accident. They're like, oh, we're not recording everything. It's like, okay, I'll just trust you, stranger person that flew me out here to say you're going to do a documentary, and then the documentary never comes to light. You just ask a whole bunch of weird questions for 6 hours straight and hot mic me all fucking day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not possible. This is just an intelligence gathering operation under the false pretense of being a documentary.
Yeah.
That would be impossible. That would cost a lot of money, Gene, and I don't know if these companies and these people have that kind of money to throw around, a plane ticket and an Airbnb and a dude with a camera and a mic.
But you know what it is in general, individuals, even business leaders, that I dealt with, when they have never experienced it, and have never been engaged with it, and seen it in action, it's not real to them.
Right.
You just sound like a crazy person saying conspiratorial things to them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'd run through it over and over. And I'll tell you, one time we red teamed it with the guy. He was in charge of Shell Russia, right? And we were giving him the briefing, doing the due diligence we're supposed to be doing with him about all the threats, and he just kind of shrugged it off like, all right, yeah, great, cloak and dagger, really sexy, thanks guys, this was an interesting lunch. And then we set up another meeting for him before we were leaving. We had other stuff to go do, and it was during that departure meeting that we handed him his 5-year plan from his office. And we showed him, we said, so, between the last meeting and this one, we were able to get somebody into your office and get this plan out of there.
Nice.
Then he had a different attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If it hasn't crossed your path, I can appreciate people may not comprehend it, but it's the weirdest thing when it, myself personally, in the beginning, I took things as more like, that's peculiar, that's interesting. But then you just start to see patterns. Like I've mentioned to you before, I can't go through an airport without getting tapped. It's a given at this point. Like I look forward to it. I wait to be like, who's the guy? Who's the guy?
Right. And and the fact about it is, even for myself, living in that world, being trained and skilled, and practicing all of the things that I'm supposed to be practicing,
Mm-hmm.
you still get caught off guard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there was like a situation. I was trying to hire a local national for a senior security position within the oil company. And I had a list of candidates and all of that, and I was going around meeting in various places, and there was one I met with specifically. We went, had lunch. I didn't particularly care for him, by the end of the lunch, and got in the car and started heading home. And the intelligence service, my contact in the intelligence service in this country, rang my uh, assistant and translator, and they had a discussion. And when he hung up, he looks at me. He said, "I said, what was that all about?" He's like, he wanted to know if we were considering so and so for the position." And I told him that you didn't like him and this and that. He said, that good, because that's something they couldn't allow to happen. And I said, so they were watching us during lunch. And he's like, yeah, they were watching us. Um, Down the road, eventually, the guy showed me. They had the surveillance photos of us, at lunch and walking in. I have a couple of them of us walking and getting from the parking lot and things. Um, but this guy that I was interviewing, turned out within like 3-4 months they arrested him as a double agent, um, on Russia one side, on this other country on the other side. Um, and that's why they were actually surveilling him, and I just happened to walk into it, and they just happened to know who I was and what I was doing and everything anyway. So it's like, even with all that, even with all the background training, everything else, it slips by you.
Oh, for sure. And I'm just curious what your thoughts might be on, so like, how easy do you think it would be, and I guess, like, how many factions do you think could potentially take advantage of such an easy thing, which would be like, when I buy a plane ticket and I'm going to travel somewhere, like, how many people would find it very easy to know exactly when I'm going to be at that airport? Like, knowing the things that you know. Do you think in your corporate level, if you wanted to pay attention to me, that you could have gotten that information easily? Do you think, obviously government agencies, like, how easy do you think it would be for interested parties to know when I'm transiting through an airport?
So it depends. So if are we talking you're inside the company, or you are
I'm
in
outside the
another
company.
company?
I'm
So
outside your company.
you're a key figure in another company, that we want to keep tabs on,
Mm-hmm.
because we know you do negotiations. You do a lot of the, we would be interested in you because we know you do a lot of the pre work to the big deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, that would begin. So surveilling you would begin sort of within the local industry circles, right? So you're going to go to conferences, you're going to go to association meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So we're going to interact with you there. We're going to listen for you talking about upcoming trips, all the small talk business people generally make, that seems like small talk,
Mm-hmm.
but are clues, signals, and indicators, um, that's something else. We might look at where you live in your neighborhood. Do we have somebody that's that's nearby, that knows you, can take a look? Would we put surveillance on you? No. Um, I think we would look more for something that looks like the patterns are breaking. So, could we get into the airlines and the systems? That No, nothing, nothing like that. But we might look for intelligence or signals, from where it is we are interested in, where you might be going. Are there conferences and things like that being set up during those times, because a lot of times people use those dual purpose. We'll have people, in the normal course of our travel, who might just happen to be on a plane with you somewhere, who just might happen to see you sitting at the airport at a gate, and then we'll shoot off a text message to be like, "Hey, Hecker's heading to Qatar right now. He's sitting there in the that section. Okay, cool. We'll take a look at that." Um, and then similarly, we would have the people, because again we're a global organization, would have them doing the same things on the receiving end. So just sort of working that human intel level, work in the networks, not necessarily asking about you, asking about the company. Do we see, the company setting something new up, a new office? Do we see hiring that might be going on that gives clues? Stuff like that.
10-4. So I appreciate that. Thank you. In your position, you're saying you would not have immediate access to, say, ticket purchases and things like that. Would it be?
No, I wouldn't. And again, so do I know did we have the people who could get that? Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, technically, you could throw some money at that and figure it out if you really needed to.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be throwing money at it. I mean, it would just basically, it would take one guy calling, a contact at the airport that he
Gotcha.
has that works within
Mm-hmm.
TSA or immigration or whatever, and being like, "Hey, do me a favor, you see anything on this? See anything on this guy?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing an investigation internal. We're trying to figure some stuff out."
Mm-hmm.
And normally they'd be like, "Yeah, okay, man, let me take a look. Yeah, he's heading out such and such date,
Gotcha.
stuff like that."
So it is feasible from the desk that you operated from. So theoretically feasible for other desks with that level of intention.
Yeah, I mean, because again, it's we all, those of us in that world, have come out of all of those other worlds that wear the uniforms and hold the guns and
Mm-hmm.
stand the gates, and they're always happy to help out as a professional courtesy. And they hope you remember it and keep it in mind. So when
Mm-hmm.
they retire, they have a nice 6-figure job to go into for their second part of their
Mm-hmm.
career before retirement.
Yeah, it's almost like these people can be compromised by money, Gene.
Imagine, imagine. We used to see it all the time. One of the big things when I really first got involved, there was this international shipping and port security code that the International Maritime Organization had set up, which was, again, post 9/11, setting up all of these protocols all over the place. All the guys in the Coast Guard and the Navy who were involved in, you know, writing the policies and the instructions and the manuals for, the Coast Guard and the Navy and the enforcement mechanisms and all the rest of it, you know, their whole thing was, oh yeah, I get 6 months left and I get my military retirement. And they either started their own consultancy on how to implement, or they were looking for a full-time position to come in to manage it on behalf. And who's better to manage a new policy directive out of the government than the people who wrote it?
There you go. Just passing it along. I got another request coming in here. Someone named Lily. Lily is approved, but we'll see what Lily is bringing to the table. See, we got Kimball down there. Good morning, Mr. Kimball. Oh, we got another request coming in. And Galactic family podcast. Dun, 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 dun. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome, Lily. Welcome, Galactic Person.
That's Jay. I know Jay.
Hello, Jay.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Yeah, just snuck in here, saw Gene talking, thought I would sneak in and see what was going on with everybody.
You got it. Happy Friday. Welcome to the convo.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, just
Jay,
go ahead.
if you're not familiar with Eric, Eric would make a fascinating guest for your forum.
Oh, okay. Eric, we'll have to get together, man. I go with what Gene says. Gene's the man. So
There you go.
we're gonna say that.
I got the royal nod.
So yeah, Eric, me and you should get together. I had a round table yesterday, dude. It was amazing, man. For my birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you, brother. I had Gene on there. I had Nick Pope on there. I had Tim Phillips, former Arrow director. I had the Tedesco brothers on there.
Wow.
Like we were
all the NGOs.
I had everybody on there.
Jeez. When was Mr. Tim running Arrow?
He wasn't running, he was the what was it, Gene? The acting director.
Yeah, that was it. Acting.
Any idea the window that he was acting?
He was the acting director of Arrow.
Lieutenant, who's steering the ship?
When was he the acting director? Anybody know the time period?
Right around the time when the Overcast play was taken away by the lovers in love at the center of stage.
Can you make that make sense, Lily?
Well, you can be creative.
I'm going to pass on that, Lily.
You like being told what to do, how to feel.
No, actually, I'm just about to drop you down for being nonsensical.
I just looked it up, Eric. It was 2023.
Gotcha.
Starting in December 2023.
Thank you, sir. December 23. So that would have been after I testified. Yeah, I'm no fan of Arrow in the slightest. Sucks when you go there in good faith and you give them all your information and then they take it, redistribute it to others as if it's theirs, and then lie about certain aspects. So I'm in the Hardy Arrow can go fuck themselves category. They're
Yes, but the good thing is with having them on the podcast, you can ask them questions that you normally would never be able to ask them, and see what their reaction and their answer is on the screen, their body language, because it tells a lot.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when, well, there was one part that I wanted to discuss real quick with Tim Phillips. You know, he might have like not said, he might have jumbled his words, and he was a word master on there, whatever, but he did leave a bunch of stuff out. Like he said about how that the government was looking into ways how they can get to a location quicker, and they stole all the ideas out of the Tedesco brothers handbook for how they actually handle what they're doing in these locations. He actually said that. He said, we stole all your work out of your handbook and used it and upgraded the sensors so we could get there quicker.
Yeah, I don't know. I just have a hard time believing anything that comes from that direction. Like that statement could be cool.
I do,
If
but you
it was
gotta take it
true,
with a grain of salt.
I do. I take everything they say. Like, so like hearing that statement to me is like, well, I mean, right off the bat, he could be lying. It's like what I would call firing for effect. You know?
Very true. Very true. It could be a lot of things, but that's why you take it with a grain of salt. But I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see this stuff is I had mentioned earlier, one of my favorite terms that I glommed from John Warner IV is that disclosure's a 1,000-ring circus. These are all factions that have intentions to deceive, and the precedent has been set because they've already been deceptive. It's going to take a heck of a lot more than unproven statements to convince me that they're not just in the activity of continued deception, narrative control.
Yeah, there was another part where in the private chat between the participants, someone said something, and Tim wrote. He said, "There's the U.S. government does not possess any UFO NHI technology." And then he had somebody at the house, and he signed off because I wanted to. Actually, I wanted to bring it up if the opportunity presented it. I'm like, so you specifically said the U.S. government doesn't. Do contractors? Do any universities? Do
Right.
There's 100 other options there.
Yeah, it's legalese. It's word selection. It's perception management. It's all that's going on right now.
What's going on in down the South Pole?
Right. That's brass tacks reality that we could invest in taking a look. Right. It's like I gave a certain amount of information. You can consider it like almost like a grand jury. You provide enough information that there's a grand jury indictment, and then they investigate and move further. Like that's kind of the idea I had in my head when I went to DC. But what we're witnessing is that they're having more fun putting out unsubstantiated speculative information and doing nothing with that while ignoring actionable intelligence. So even all of these other people that say, I saw this or I experienced that, like none of it's actionable intelligence. Even if they are telling the truth, like, oh, okay, you're saying that in this field in Montana, you saw something 15 years ago. Even if what they're saying is 100% true, it's not actionable intelligence. There's nothing you can fucking do with it. Day late and a dollar short.
And if I'm correct, Eric, in my characterization, what you brought forward, they very likely already knew, and it was just an exercise in seeing how much you knew.
Totally.
And there was never an intent.
Yeah.
They knew it was actionable intelligence, but they already knew it, so there's no action to take.
Right,
so
because
the only
they're
thing
already
to do is figure out how much you know.
Right, and they're already in the throes of actively covering it up. So I'm just problematic.
Oh, you're filling the you're providing information about where the gaps exist, and then how do they fill that gap?
Yeah, like almost in a way, Gene, like imagine somehow I worked for Shell Corporation and I became privy to tons of their activity. Let's say I was a plumber for Shell Corporate and nobody had me sign an NDA. There was just a faux pas in processing. I signed nothing. But all of a sudden, somehow in my daily routine, I became privy to shitloads of your information. And I just start disseminating it. You have no legal recourse. I don't work for you. You can't threaten my job. Everything I'm saying is true. What do you do?
Fill the gap. That's it.
Yeah. Start
all
working
you-
against me. Do everything that you can to make me look wrong or discount the value of my information or do character assassination, you know, ignore my info, invest in contrary info.
Right. Just and make sure we don't, make sure we don't bring you back.
Oh, of course, right?
Number
Yeah.
one, right? Call the company and be like, oh, that guy kind of, gave us the creeps. Don't you
Yep.
got anybody else?
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I'm at. Is they had bet too hard on the value of compartmentalization without realizing the aspects in that system that operated beyond the boundaries of the compartments.
Yeah, and I just realized that I probably said the quiet part out loud because that's exactly what happened with you after you talked to Nancy Mace.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean the video's out there. There's no arguing what she said. Very clearly, I'm interested in speaking to the Antarctica whistleblower and providing protection. That's yet to occur. The opposite has occurred, Gene. What a weird thing. It's almost like she was being disingenuous.
I think after this, Eric, me and you definitely should talk offline. Because I'm just thinking in my head right now, and I was all right when 2 years ago when MUFON's case management system was hacked into, and our system was down for like 9 months. We couldn't get into it.
Mm-hmm.
We had a huge investigation, and I pretty much, we already know who it was and everything, and we did nothing about it, and I feel really, really upset about that.
You're with MUFON?
I was. I'm not re-registering or anything. My subscription is out. I was a section state director with MUFON out of Pennsylvania. I was on Ancient Aliens, season 19, episode 5 with Travis Taylor and Nick Pope. And after that, I don't know if it was if it was the Ancient Aliens team or if it was someone around the area or something, but after the Ancient Aliens episode aired, all of a sudden now our CMS system is completely can't get into it.
Yeah,
like
I
they
don't doubt
wanted to
that.
get something.
Are you familiar with the term COINTELPRO?
Yeah. I'm retired from the Army. I did my last duty station was the 204th MI Aerial Reconnaissance Unit out of Fort Bliss, Texas. So I know all about, the intelligence game.
Yeah,
I just didn't know.
I find MUFON to be an aspect of
know that
COINTELPRO functioning in the UFO community. They just seem hardly wielded.
Like how do you? Yeah, but how do you work with like different organizations if you can't trust where the information is? It's a sticky situation you put yourself in being a UFO researcher.
My answer would be you don't affiliate with any organizations that don't have fact-based, actionable intelligence. They're all playing games. They're all vying to be king of the hill of the topic when nobody has any actionable intelligence. That seems to me to be like one of the ways to find out who's a disingenuous faction operating in the Thousand Ring Circus is that they're vying to be an authority over unsubstantiated speculative claims versus actionable intelligence. And I know what you're immediately thinking. You're like, well, none of these factions have actionable intelligence. Bingo. They're all full of shit. They're all full of shit. Yeah. They're all pretending.
So we have to create our own actual intelligence then.
Yep, we the people.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we were talking about also on the podcast with the Tedesco brothers. They have a whole network that they're going to be starting with scientists, researchers, and everybody in the field, so that they can like collaborate across the field equally.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's time that we the people realize that our public servants are not doing as good a job of serving the public as they are the corporations. So similar to how that functioned outside of the ufology community, we the people are suffering under corporate investment for the public servants to do the bidding of the corporations. That's already happening on a Pepsi and Coke level for silly stuff. Now, when we get into this big stuff, it gets worse. Now you have, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin investing in our public servants, for our public servants to serve the corporate interest instead of the people's interest. That's all that's going on. And since these corporations have almost inexhaustible resources for the application of their intentions, that's where we, the people, fail, is that as individuals fighting this beast of counterintelligence and conspiracy, we just don't have deep enough pockets. So everything that we're watching in these circles takes massive investment and production. So one of the things that I'm learning is that a lot of these folks out there that are doing podcasts and things like that and acting like there's some sort of grassroots individual effort are also lying. They have full production crews. They have massive budgets. It's an act. It's a show. There's no poor people out there.
Well, I will say, brother, I will argue on one point with that.
Mm-hmm.
I am my own production crew and everything for my podcast, and I have no one else do it for me except for me. So I am the exception on that one.
Fair enough, but I'm just saying that this is it's like a line of demarcation in the sand, that once you cross that line, it's very easy to throw stones at people on the other side. That's what I'm getting at.
No, it's very true. Very
That's
true.
What I'm
and I'm
at.
not saying I probably wouldn't have a production team down the road if the podcast had like 1 million people on it, but
right,
I wouldn't be able to do it myself, probably.
Understood. But that's what I'm getting at. Is it just seems that once people cross that line, they don't seem to be able to do it without strings attached and being compromised and part of some other operation that's funding them.
At that point of being big, you would have to bring in other personnel that you personally know are not involved in this. Like,
fair enough. I mean, that would be the ideal, but yeah, I mean,
then be a part of that group.
There's podcasts out there right now that just put out public calls. No vetting process, just like, hey, we need someone to clip videos for us. We need an executive producer. We're opening the door to anyone. This is observable activity in our community. There's weird things going on, and it's obviously weird, and it should just be called out accordingly. Like as an example, that Lily lady that came up before, that's still in this space, that every single time I deny her request, she puts in another request. That's weird. Who's Lily? Why does she keep requesting after I dropped her down? Incessantly requesting. Totally weird behavior. Who sent Lily? What's Lily's agenda?
So how
derail the conversation?
How would you approach the topic then?
Which topic?
So how would you approach? Oh, sorry about that.
Which topic?
Oh, like if we're going to start from the ground up, right? Then okay, so where do you start? Do you start from you know, scientists already working on it? Do you start from, or you start from citizen scientists working on it? Or do you branch out into both and have a collaboration across the board?
I'll engage anybody who has actionable intelligence, and anybody who tries to engage and doesn't have actionable intelligence, I'll say they're full of shit. And we should put people on pedestals, and we should spotlight people that have actionable intelligence, and we should put them in front of the community. People that are in front of the community without actionable intelligence, we should be proverbially throwing tomatoes at them and telling them to get the fuck off the stage. We don't want to hear any more of their bullshit.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you, because I'm sick of the, like, trust me, bro. I can't trust anyone that says trust me. You know, like,
right.
it just doesn't ring in my head.
But it's rampant. I mean, it's pretty much the community from top to bottom. I think, to be completely frank, I think Gene and myself are the only two people that I know of in the entirety of the community that have provided any actionable intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, by all means, anybody name anybody else that's provided actionable intelligence. Where can we send troops right now to kick indoors?
The other ones were said behind closed doors, so we don't really know what they actually said.
Right. We're just told, you know, like Eric Burleson, you know, I've been told things and I've seen videos. So trust me, I'm Representative Burleson, who demands evidence from everybody else, provides zero.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you. We have to start building a collection of people that actually have something to add to the discussion, and then just build upon that.
And it's funny because I was just putting together stuff on this earlier in the week and over the last couple of weeks, and again trying to put some structure and number and methodology, but there's a total inversion between the most prominent figures and voices provide the least amount of anything that could be considered evidence.
Right. And I don't even like the word evidence anymore. I'm more inclined to prefer actionable intelligence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it's a complete...
Speculative information.
Say that again, sir?
I was saying speculative information.
Yeah, that's all we get. Unsubstantiated speculation. Maybe this, possibly that, could be this, consider that, what if it's this? But have you ever considered, like, that's all we get in this community. Instead of, like, you know, and in regards to what you had asked before, like, you know, how do we deal with this issue? One of the things that I've taken up in my activities towards getting the truth out there is focusing on the conversations about technology. What can be done? When did we start being able to do that? How many billions of dollars were invested in an idea over how many decades? You know, this stuff leaves a trail that would be very indicative of where we could be right now. And then to me, there's got to be a way to calculate. Gene, you may know a way to word this better, that, like, you know, like, I'm thinking like corporate in your environment, right? There could be threats to the company, and you could be gathering intelligence and different levels of actionable intelligence, right? And you get a whole bunch of theoretical threats sitting on your desk that you have to, like, triage in a way and prioritize. And then with that being said, there's a level of actionable intelligence supporting evidence that's present that you need to consider as part of your calculation for prioritizing things. But then there's also, you have to look at the potential implications of certain things. So you follow what I'm getting at, Gene? That, like, you know, like, there's certain things that, you know, you might say, you know, we don't have a lot of actionable intelligence on that one, But for fuck's sake, the implications of if that one is true.
That's called black swan.
Okay. That's called
That's
black swan.
that's it. Low probability, right? Low probability, high consequence.
High consequence. Okay. So
Yeah.
stuff that has high consequence, even though you may not have a lot of intelligence on it, because of the consequences, you may need to redirect your energies towards that, even if there's something else with a higher level of supporting evidence and actionable intelligence, but the implications are lesser.
Right. So I'm going to suggest a book. It's called The Black Swan: The Impact of the Highly Improbable. It was written in 2007 by Nassim Nicholas, and it is the definitive book on risk and exploring how unpredictable, rare, and high impact events dominate history.
Oh boy.
And so this, black swan concept is based upon, in there was a point in history where, nobody believed there could be a black swan, and then I guess they went to Australia and they're like, oh look, black swans. um but they are extraordinarily rare, and then when you find it changes the whole thing. 9/11, so this was 2007, if I remember the premise of the book. 9/11 was sort of the nexus for it, where, again, on TV, everyone's like, oh, we never imagined. And it's like, no, no, no. Actually, there's a lot of people that imagined, and a lot of people that wrote about, hijacking an airplane and flying it into something, kamikaze style. And not only that, we've had the kamikazes, we've had people who have done it in the past. But, it's similarly, but that becomes the exact problem. And this is actually what I, became the bread and butter of, my post or pre UAP world, in what I did in the oil and gas space. What Because the problem was, I touched on a little bit earlier, right? When it came to security risks, right? And we're talking everything, geopolitical, war, terrorism, spying, all that stuff is, under that umbrella term. We could we could write up a nice fancy report and hand it to a business leader. Um, and then he'd sit and he'd read it and he'd be like, wow, this is really scary stuff. Thanks. Right. Let me know, if anything's going to happen. And what I discovered was, I'm like, what motivates the business people is the, financial liabilities, the duty of care, insurance, all of these things. I'm like, we have to stop talking to them in our language and start speaking their language. So what I did was go through a process of developing a new risk assessment methodology that was specific to security risks, and, trying to frame it and create a balance with health, safety, environmental, other business risks. And what makes it unique, as opposed to any other type of risk that a company faces, is that by their nature, security risks are adversarial. So, and Eric, in the, the plumbing world, right? You put on valves and controls, and you measure things in order to mitigate the risk of high pressure and to alleviate that and all the rest of it. However, and you can do that through, in any area through any number of processes. But when there is an adversarial threat, when somebody says, I am going to intentionally and knowingly bypass this measure, then, you can put in all of the controls in the world that you want. Um, but if you're not doing it smartly, then, they can still ultimately be bypassed. So that was sort of the framing around it. And then to develop the scoring system to exactly what you're talking about. So we can talk about, Um, we can talk about probability. We can talk about, history of when, how many times these things happen locally, nationally, globally. Um, what conditions exist that allow them to happen. But then we have to narrow it down to specific scenarios. And that's where we sort of, matrix it and say, okay, we have all of these things that can potentially happen. We definitely need to address everything that falls into high probability and high risk, high consequence, I should say. Um, and do we do that down the line? Do we address everything that is high consequence? Um, and if we say yes, even then, we're still able to prioritize kind of based on probability.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the things I'm trying to emphasize to folks is the implications of what I have discovered down at the South Pole Station. And I don't think people really brood on that one enough.
Right. Well, because again, so I guess I don't, improbable might be the wrong word. But
Incomprehensible.
incomprehensible, right? It's the stuff of it's what you see in movies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yes, that stuff happens in movies.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start saying, yeah, but we can really do it.
Right. Yeah, but here's the decades of research and the billions of dollars invested to get this exact outcome.
Yeah.
But then they'll say, but we're not doing that. That program failed. Yes, we invested billions of dollars in inducing earthquakes through technology. But trust us when we say after billions of dollars invested, it didn't really pan out.
Right. And that's what I think that other people, underappreciate or don't appreciate is that, in any other circumstance, or when you compare it to other instances where there has been research and development money committed to a topic and that topic fails, you see it drop off the radar, right? After, so many attempts,
Mm-hmm.
you see it disappear. But when you start getting into we are funding decades of failure,
Right.
then that becomes more questionable or should be more questionable.
Right. Yeah, I could see you throw, $1 billion at it 4 times and it wraps up and it was over a decade. But, when you start spanning, 3 decades on a topic and continued investment, and then only, 5 years ago, they'll say, and that's when we stopped investing in it. No, that's when it went dark. That's when you found other funding. Gene, you'll get a kick out of this one. I don't know if you've ever heard about Montauk, Long Island, Camp Hero.
No, not Camp Hero, no.
Oh, you're going to love this one. So Camp Hero and Montauk is, kind of got a nefarious, shady past as well. Air Force related, radar, powerful SAGE radar systems, very interesting stuff. But through my own diligence of investigating Camp Hero, this is really funny. So you can follow the funding for an actual military base through the decades. But then there's like a period of like 10 years in the middle of it where you can't find who was funding it. So it was like military. We have no clue. We have no clue. And then military again. And this is just stuff that I found through my own research. It just cracks me up. It's like, yeah, we have no idea who was paying for that place to run, but it was running. We know that.
Chalk it up to a contractor. It'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe somebody was renting it during that period.
It's very possible, Gene. One of the really cool things was, that's now a state park. I believe it was back in 1994 when it was transferred over to the New York State Parks Department. So this military base gets handed over to the Parks Department, and I've read all the paperwork. Technically, it was the top 10 feet was donated to the Park Service, and when it was initially donated, it was the only state park in all of the New York State that you still couldn't go to. So the Parks Department was in charge of running it, the top 10 feet. No tax-paying citizen was allowed in the park. It was still being patrolled by non-uniformed men with fully automatic weapons. And the top 10 feet, as written, could be taken back instantaneously in a period of national security issues.
Because after that was closed, it was still being run underground. From what I found out also about that place was that if you look at the electrical lines going into the place after it was shut down, there's been an upgrade on the building as far as the electrical goes into the building. And why would you upgrade an abandoned building if you're not still using it for some reason?
Are you referring to the gigawatt of power that goes into a shack that goes into the ground? The gigawatt of power that
I definitely am.
That the power utility only if you do a request from their direction, they simply have to let you know as a billed customer that you're not being billed for that, and somebody is paying the bill. So somebody is paying the bill for a gigawatt of power to go into the ground at Camp Hero. Here's another cool thing when you're trying to find secret facilities, because it is kind of all about infrastructure and utilities. So Camp Hero, a closed facility, at least the top 10 feet, has a gigawatt power line going into it, which is enough for a substantial city. Additionally, and I have the paperwork on this one. I physically possess this stuff through many years of research. So Camp Hero is in Suffolk County, Long Island. The Suffolk County Water Authority is required to do annual testing of all of their well sites and facilities and distribute that information to the users of the system. So when I was a resident of Suffolk County, every single year they would put out a report and mail it right to my house. Everybody got these. So for many years, there was listed the multiple water districts of the greater Suffolk County community. One of which, for many years, which was usually like on the last page or second to last page, was the Camp Hero Water District. What an interesting avenue to dig into, the Camp Hero Water District. So I did some digging. Well, first and foremost, in the paperwork that they provided, it was very clear to see that some communities in Long Island, which service tens of millions of people, would have a water tower and water pumps available, pumps to fill the tower to distribute. So there were many areas on Long Island that had a single pump and tower that functioned for tens of millions of people. Well, the Camp Hero Water District had as much tower and pump ability for a theoretically closed facility, was still functioning at a level to provide the same amount of water as other communities that had tens of millions of people. And then the other interesting thing in regards to the Camp Hero Water District was I did some digging on the other water districts, and this is stretching my memory banks, but I will go as so far as to say I remember finding at least 2 other water districts. So yeah, the Camp Hero Water District, let's say that there was the Huntington Water District, the Brookhaven Water District, all in Suffolk County, but there were multiple other water districts that on their books they claim to singularly be completely funding the Camp Hero Water District, which I thought was an amazing find. So, interesting ways of funding locations, especially interesting for certain locations where at times you can't follow the funding. So, doubling down on water district and investing might have been an avenue to pump funds into the area.
Eric, this is the same facility you discussed before. You did like a deep dive on it, and you went through the underground system and everything.
I have covered this topic before previously. Camp Hero, Montauk Point, absolutely. There's so much going on in the east end of Long Island. It's, stone's throw from Brookhaven National Labs, so to say. Brookhaven National Labs is like pretty much the same property as Tesla's Wardenclyffe facility, as the Shoreham Nuclear Power Plant, as Camp Siegfried, which was the German-American Bund Nazi OSS camp on Long Island. I mean, this is literally pretty much all the same location. People just keep changing their uniforms. First, they were Nazis from Operation Paperclip. Then they're like, no. We are the good Germans. And then they go from being the good Germans to, being CIA. And then they go from CIA to private sector Brookhaven National Labs. And everybody just keeps bouncing back and forth.
How many people would you estimate work there now?
At Brookhaven?
Yeah.
Well, there's got to be thousands. I mean, I even found through the Freedom of Information Act on the CIA's website. Gene, you might get a kick out of this. So Brookhaven National Labs was part of a training course that what I found was called, it was referred to as the mid-career course in the CIA files. And the mid-career course was a program that took foreigners and brought them to the U.S. and brought them up to speed on certain science projects. And part of the curriculum for the mid-career course was for these foreigners to visit Brookhaven National Labs, which has a very shady history. And I would say is heartily Brookhaven National Labs and Shoreham Nuclear Power Plant. I mean, you might as well just replace the nuclear power plant and the national labs on the TV series Dark, and just rewatch that show.
Yeah. It's funny. Nat watched it when it was originally in German. And she loved it because it would, she was brushing up on her German skill. And then we rewatched it with the English subtitles. And then I had her watch Stranger Things. And I think it's you who said Stranger Things is sort of the Disney version of Dark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Stranger Things was originally supposed to air, its original title was just going to be called Montauk. But then that got kiboshed.
And Jay, for your pre-work with Eric was deeply involved in that as a child, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Unfortunately, yes, Gene. One of my least favorite topics, but yes, that's an accurate statement. Yeah. Long Island was very screwy back in the day.
I would say, Yeah, I would say the only thing that I can remember as a kid was there. Well, we'll have to talk offline because I don't like talking about that out loud.
Fair enough. Yeah, I understand. It's a rough topic to engage. I've spoken over the years about it, and I've put out enough information multiple times. There's certain things that are easier for me to talk about than others, but I engage almost all of these topics. It's just admittedly some are harder than others. Just as a reminder, we still have Lily non-stop requesting to speak. And the fact that I keep denying, and it doesn't slow her roll, isn't peculiar at all, Lily. Not the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But by all means, continue to request, and I'll continue to deny.
One thing that I wanted to bring up, Eric, is um, when I look at like movies and stuff, right? Now, certain movies, certain actors, certain producers, whatever, they have an inside track. They put certain things in their movie. So, um, like take Steven Spielberg with, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He was collaborating with, Dr. Hynek, from Project Blue Book. So, my question would be, who is he collaborating with now on his newest movie? Because it's got a lot to do with the psionics, the taking over from one person to another, using telepathy. All of that is in it.
Oh, the answer is extremely easy. He's collaborating with very rich people that are attempting to control the narrative.
So it's just a different narrative. It's just like, so back then it was the government trying to control the narrative. That's why Dr. Hynek was there. And then this time now it's like we need to control it, like the private or somebody else is coming in and saying, trying to control it, right?
It could be the government all over again for all we know. But regardless, I mean, we can't keep looking at the production teams and expecting them to be operating in a deviant way from the precedent that's been set until such time we can provide some actionable intelligence that cord has been broken. Or they're just plucking the same guitar string over and over again.
I'll tell you one thing from the new trailer that struck me, and I tend to, take a step back and be like, all right, yeah, this looks cool and whatever. But somebody had posted a screenshot of the Colin Firth character walking into that big control center looking thing, and above it, it looks as though it says Ward X, EX. And, somebody had posted and said, oh, I wonder what Ward X is. And what struck me was about that framing of the EX. Because to me, that, what it jumped to my mind is like, oh, that, is exchange, right? The base exchange is the BXEX. So I'm interested in the idea if part of this is that command center, some sort of exchange of psionic ability, telepathic ability, something like that. If it's framed around that, I hate to speculate about movies, but that was at least one I thought was like, oh, that could be interesting.
Yeah, I think this type of production is designed to do just that thing, Gene. To pack it with so much stuff that people can debate and argue and speculate about ad nauseum. That's the goal of this effort. That's all it is. Is it disclosure? Is it not disclosure? Let's argue about it. But regardless, that's the topic that's in between the margins now. If you discuss outside of the margins, if you avoid that topic, you're not in the cool group, you're not discussing what's been invested in for you to discuss. It's literally the text within the margins. This is how COINTELPRO works. There's the left side and there's the right side. They control the information in between that everybody's supposed to be digesting. If you discuss things outside of the margins, both margins attack you and tell you to get back inside the margins and discuss what we have defined to discuss.
See, and damn it, I got sucked right into it. There I go.
Understood. But I mean, this is you know the drill, Gene. I mean, there's people that are paying. I mean, this is marketing. The people that are paying to make sure this is topical. They're gonna get a return on their investment.
Yeah, and it's some of the best people in the world, I guess, doing it.
The best at it, not necessarily the best people, but the best at it. They're tapping.
Right.
Yeah, they may be the worst people that are the best at it. I was thinking before when we were talking about, what people can accomplish and what they would do, and I want to try to word this correctly. Gene, in your experience, how many people do you think that you might have crossed paths with that would pretty much do anything if you cut the right size check?
Oh God, count. I mean, that's the entire crux of the opera world. When I got, when I got involved with that, right? I mean, I joked with Nat all the time. Would play Powerball, and I'd look at the numbers, especially when it got up around $1 billion, and I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm gonna go. I said, we hit this, and we're the only winners. I'm gonna write a $60 million check to the Metropolitan Opera to cover all of their debt.
Mm-hmm.
And, the next day there's going to be and I'm going to tell them, but before I give you this check, I want every opera this season to feature Nazis in blackface. I said, and believe you me, they will come up with a reason and go to the New York Times why this is the most important artistic staging that has ever existed.
Wow. I mean, and that's like not the angle I was expecting you to go, but it's still funny that you're like, fuck, even the damn opera would sell their soul in the blink of an eye for the appropriate size check. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So back to the original question. How many folks, Gene, do you think you may have crossed paths with that would pretty much be pay to play on anything you asked as long as the check was the right size?
I mean, I'd say I could maybe more easily identify people who wouldn't.
Well, I guess I'm trying to get at the idea that these people do exist.
Yeah.
There are people that have no morals, so to say.
Yeah.
And if you cut them in the right size check, you can ask them anything, and they'll smile, take the check, and do the deed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even myself, I joke, and Nat is working with a company on the IT side of things, and they had some ideas about emergency management, and I offered a few things, and they said, oh, they asked her, they said, well, would your husband be willing to, maybe consult for us or whatever? And she even knew. She goes, he's going to charge you an obscene amount because he's retired and he doesn't want to do it. So if you're willing to pay it, then yeah, he'll do it. But it's going to be an obscene amount.
Mm-hmm. Good for you, Gene. That's a good power position to operate from.
Yeah, even for me. Well, and I mean, even other little consultant things I had, again, just sort of near the end of my career. I used to do that if I didn't really want to do it, right? I think we talked about it too, right? The plumbing and stuff, right? I'll jump up the charge. Okay, if you're willing to do it, then I'll suck it up and I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But especially around emergency management type things, I tell people, listen, we can do this now, and this is the project, and it's going to cost you, X amount over 3 months. To get everything in place, and then should something happen, it goes to an hourly rate, and I come in and help you manage it, and then they were like, well, what if we just kind of have your phone number and we call you? I said, well, if we do that, then I go hourly, and that rate is going to be what it's going to cost you. It's going to run you per hour what it was going to cost you to do this entire project over the course of 4 months.
Nice. I've always loved emergency service rates.
Yeah.
Well, I think, what the heck time is it? 10:35. I should probably wrap this up and get my day going because I got a bunch of stuff on my plate that I got to get accomplished this weekend. But it was nice shaking off the rust in the studio, making sure
Yeah,
things
good to
work.
see you back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be doing more stuff. Things just got a little really chaotic this week. But I got some new equipment in the studio. I don't know if I sound different from how I used to, but I got some new stuff going on. I'm getting it dialed in, so it should make the studio a lot more functional to do greater
sounds
things.
good.
Yeah, everything's working out good, and technically, yeah, I should start having less sound issues. I just have to practice a little more with the new controls.
Very good.
Hey, it
Well,
was nice being in the space and nice being in the space and being here and meeting you again. And I was in a space once before when you were talking, so about the South Pole.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Hit me up if you want to engage or something like that. Best way to get a hold of me is the email on my website, deciphering.tv. So, yeah. By all means, shoot me an email and we'll figure some stuff out if you want to chat about some things. And Gene, always a pleasure. Lily,
thank you, sir.
have a great day, you weirdo. Enjoy, guys. Have a great day. And